Whenever you're working with castings, sometimes the most important thing that you were looking for is the grain structure of the metal.
People ask the strength of the casting. What's it compared to for a bar stock? Well, in theory, the casting should be stronger. This was why. Well, if I put my fingers together like this, you're going to pull my hands apart quite easily. But if I interlock them like this, like the grain structure being poured, you're not going to pull this apart.
Now, the grain structure of the metal has to be interlocking to make it strong.
So you have grain structure vertically, horizontally, diagonally in a casting where you don't have that with a continuous feed bar.
And sometimes castings have to be heat treated to develop the grain structure properly. And the reason, of course, is that you may want to machine it, you may want to harden it.
And speaking of grain structure, if you noticed, our pouring area has induction melting.
We use an induction melting unit to melt all of our ferrous metals, and that uses a very strong magnetic field. And that's pretty cool that a magnetic field can actually melt metal.
We use electric exclusively for aluminum.
And that keeps the metal very still, no turbulence in there, so that it doesn't absorb any gases from the atmosphere.
Electric's more expensive. However, you don't have the turbulence which induction and gas can cause. So your grain structure within the aluminum is very, very good with almost zero porosity.
In order to achieve the grain structure that we want, we heat treat the material.
Believe it or not, even though we have 20-some hundred degree molten alloy, it cools down to room temperature. We still have to now heat it back up, but not in the molten state, to get the grain structure proper as to how you want it. So for its application.
You get that through heat treating, and you get it through annealing.
You call out a Rockwell, or you give us a 5-point spread, which is less costly. You tell us what you want it into, we heat treat it, and boom, then you have your Rockwell. We pour it, cool it, work it up, in other words, grind the casting, that type of thing. And then you're going to anneal it so you can machine it, that type of thing. And then maybe harden it afterwards to bring it to a hardness so it'll wear better. You want to soften it, typically for a secondary. All of this is quoted up front so you know what is in the total package.
We're not just a supplier, we're a partner.